Hey everyone, welcome to our channel Physics, where we actually learn physics. So in today's lecture, we are actually going to see a very interesting, very important concept called as the strong nuclear force. Okay, the strong nuclear force, which is, we can say, one of the most important topics in today's research. Okay, so this is a very important topic for today's students, today's researchers actually, because I'm telling you because nuclear force is actually related to the nuclear energy that we are actually trying to achieve right now. Okay, we are actually trying to get this nuclear energy for our daily use as much as possible. We are thinking of nuclear energy as a future resource for all of us. So that's why this is a very trending topic in research if you go. Okay, so that's why today's topic is very important for all of us. It's called as the strong nuclear force. So let's try to understand what this force exactly is. Okay, how this comes and where is it exactly. Okay, yes, definitely we are not gonna go into too much of details actually. Okay, this is not a advanced physics class. Okay, when you will go into the master's class, then you will learn about this in more of the details, lots of the equations and all those stuffs. But right now we'll try to keep it as basic as possible so that you will understand it better. Okay, so let's see what this force actually is. Okay, so before exactly we go into this nuclear force, we will just first try to understand what this nucleus is. Okay, what is this nucleus? That must be first understood by all of us. I mean, what are its characteristics? Because the nuclear force is actually associated with all of these characteristics. So that's why first we will go through some characteristics of the nucleus. Okay, now basically all of us already know that nucleus was discovered by none other than Rutherford. Okay, Rutherford was the one who discovered it actually. Okay, from his experimental data, from his experiments, the famous experiment actually, the alpha scattering experiment. Okay, from there he actually discovered this nucleus. He said that atom consists of a nucleus. Okay, so anyways, let's try to see what is this nucleus again. So all of us know that everything in nature is made up of atoms. Okay, and then atom is made up of nucleus at the center and electrons revolving around them. We can say this is the picture of atom that we know right now. Yes, if you go into the advanced class, you will see that the picture is little bit more complicated than this, but for basic, okay, we can say that this is how atom looks like. So I will just try to draw it over here. Let's say for carbon atom. Okay, carbon, as we all know, okay, carbon has a mass number of 12 actually. That means it has Z, that is the number of protons, okay, equal to 6, and the number of neutrons equal to 6. 6 protons plus 6 neutrons. Okay, and we can say here that the total mass number, that is N plus Z itself, will be equal to 12. Okay, so this is the number of protons, number of neutrons, and total number of nucleons, or we call it as a mass number. Okay, so that is 12 for us. And the number of electrons, okay, number of electrons for any atom is equal to the number of protons, so it is again 6 over here. Okay, so that is the property for the carbon. Just an example actually. You can take any other example of any other element. Okay, now we know that any atom is made up of a nucleus at the center, and the nucleus is actually made up of protons and neutrons. We can't say really made up of, we can say the nucleus contains protons and neutrons. The nucleus is basically a collection of these particles, collections of protons and neutrons actually. Okay, like this, you can take those marbles and combine them together. Okay, just for example, take 6 marbles and 6 other marbles. Okay, I mean 6 protons and 6 neutrons, and just combine them together, keep them together, that will be the nucleus. Okay, kind of a just example. So over here there is a nucleus which contains these protons and neutrons. So over here I will draw this for you. Okay, so this is, let's say, a nucleus, 6 protons and 6 neutrons, 3 4 okay, 5 6 7 8 9 10 11, and let's say this is 12th. Okay, so in this way this is the nucleus. Yeah, I have drawn it too big actually, just so that you can see it, but actually the nucleus is very small. Okay, the nucleus is very small actually. If I go precise, the size of the nucleus, okay, I would write here somewhere, let's say over here, the size of the nucleus, I would say radius of the nucleus, okay, is about 10 raised to minus 15 to 10 raised to minus 14 meters. Okay, size of the nucleus, that means radius of the nucleus, is about 10 raised to minus 15 to 10 raised to minus 14. Remember, 10 raised to minus 15 is a smaller number than 10 raised to minus 14. There is a negative power, remember that. Okay, and if you see here, the radius of the atom, it's about 10 raised to minus, you can say 10. Okay, it's about 10 raised to minus 10 actually. Okay, little bit more or small, but almost it is 10 raised to minus 10. So you can see here the difference between the size of the nucleus and size of the atom. Atom is very big in comparison to the nucleus, isn't it? If you take the order of magnitude over here, so over here there is a difference of 10 raised to 5, isn't it? There is a difference of 10 raised to 5 over here. Okay, if you take the fractions, you will see a difference of 10 raised to 5. That means atom is 10 raised to 5 times larger in size than the nucleus. Okay, so that is how big it is actually. This is all according to the experimental data that we have actually, all according to the research that goes actually, and this is pretty much a correct data. Okay, all the experiments have verified this data, so it's very much right. Okay, so this is data related to the nucleus. Okay, now the atom is made up of nucleus, and the nucleus is surrounded by these electrons actually, and these electrons are actually revolving in various orbits. So let's see over here, let's say this is the first orbit. Okay, don't go with the drawing. Let's say this is the second orbit. Okay, again don't go with this scale that is being shown. This is just for representation purposes. Okay, so let's say here is one electron. Okay, here is another electron. Okay, and see, in total we have 6 electrons. So in the first orbit there are always 2 electrons. Okay, so remaining will be here 1 2 the 3, and this is the 4th, let's say. Okay, so in this way we have these electrons. Inside we have 6 protons, 6 positively charged particles, let's say. Okay, 3 4 5, and let's say there is one more 6th. Okay, just representation actually. Okay, it can be anywhere. Okay, so this is a picture of a carbon atom. Okay, just a carbon 12 atom, Okay, don't go with the drawing actually. Okay, it's really difficult to draw these pictures. Okay, anyways, so over here we can see this is the picture of a carbon 12 atom. Now over here, just now we have seen that the radius of this nucleus is pretty small, isn't it? And you can see here that the radius of this atom is pretty big. That means if you take the total atom, it's big, very big, and if you take only the nucleus, it's very small. 10 raised to 5 times smaller than the size of the atom. Imagine that. Okay, imagine that you are in a cinema hall, a big one. Okay, so imagine that you are in a cinema hall and imagine that hall as a atom. Then the tip of your hair, okay, tip of your hair, that would be the size of the nucleus. If that big hall is a you can say an atom, then the tip of your hair is a nucleus. That is how small the nucleus is. Okay, so I think you got the idea how small it is, and from this we can also say that most of the space inside the atom is an empty space. Okay, most of the space is a empty space inside the atom. Okay, now, so this is one aspect over here. Now we have just found out that yes, there is a huge difference in sizes. Okay, and most of the space is empty space in the atom. Now there is one more data that we should talk about over here regarding this nucleus, that is the mass. Okay, see, as far as our data goes, we know that mass of electrons is about mass of the electron is about 9.1 into 10 raised to minus 31 kg. Okay, minus 31, so that's a very small number. If you see the mass of the proton, okay, it's about 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 27 kgs. Okay, and if you take the mass of the neutron, it's about same actually, it's 1.67. There is a small fractional difference, but we are not taking it. Okay, it's 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 27 kg. Okay, it's actually 1.672, okay, 263 or something, and here it's 1.67492 or something like that. Okay, so you can see there is a very small difference that we are not considering right now. It's really irrelevant in this video. Okay, so now we know these masses. Okay, now in total we have 6 electrons. In this case I am talking 6 protons and 6 neutrons. Here you can note one thing, that number of protons and number of neutrons are almost equal. I mean exactly equal, not almost. Okay, we can see here that the number of protons and the number of neutrons are exactly equal in the case of carbon, but it's not actually true for all nuclei. If you see the heavier nuclei, then the number of neutrons are always higher than the number of protons for heavier ones. Let's say atomic number greater than 20. Okay, so let's not think about that, but right now we have this. Okay, these numbers right now. So now if I calculate the total mass of this whole atom, that would be nothing but the sum of all these masses 6 times. Okay, remember that. So we can say here total mass of the whole atom, okay, atom would be equal to what? Mass of the electron, okay, plus mass of the proton plus mass of the neutron. Okay, see, all of these are 6, so that's why we can just multiply by 6 times the sum of these numbers. Okay, so that's it. So let's calculate this. So mass of the atom, total mass, would be equal to mass of electron is 9.1 into 10 raised to minus 31 plus 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 27 kgs plus 1.67 into 10 raised to minus 27 kgs, okay, and all multiplied by 6. Okay, so that would be the mass. Okay, now if you just calculate this number, okay, if we just calculate this number would come out to be about, okay, somewhere about 2.004546 into 10 raised to minus 26 kgs. Okay, you can just calculate that actually at your place if you have a calculator. So that number would be somewhere around this. Okay, 2.004546 into 10 raised to minus 26 kg. So this is the total mass of the atom, okay, of this element, okay, this element. Okay, now over here, if I now calculate the mass of the nucleus only, okay, that would be nothing but the mass of the proton and the mass of the neutron, isn't it? Because nucleus contains only protons and neutrons. So over here it would be 6 times the mass of the protons plus mass of the neutrons. Now we have all these numbers, and when we calculate this, okay, this number would come out to be, you can calculate on your calculators, okay, you can see here on the calculator, this number is coming out to be 2.004 into 10 raised to minus 26 kg. Okay, this is the number, that is the mass of the nucleus, this is the mass of the atom, okay, and this is the mass of the nucleus. So now you can check here that the mass of the nucleus is almost similar to the mass of the atom. Okay, in fact, if I take out the ratios, I mean if I find out the percentage of the mass carried by this nucleus in this whole atom, then we find out that about 99.98%, okay, about 99.98% of the total mass of this whole atom is inside the nucleus itself. Okay, it is inside the nucleus itself. That much mass in the smallest of the volumes, smallest of the sizes. Okay, see here, this size is very small. Okay, and if you go and actually calculate the numbers, okay, if you calculate the volume of this nucleus, it is about 10 raised to minus 44 meters cube, minus 44 meters cube. And if you calculate the volume of this whole atom, it is about 10 raised to minus 23 meter cube. So you can see the difference, isn't it, of about 10 raised to 21, isn't it? The volume of the nucleus is 10 raised to 21 times smaller than the volume of the atom. So you can check how small this nucleus is, but at the same time, in this small volume, it is able to carry almost all of the mass of this whole atom, isn't it? Isn't it? So that means, that says actually to us that the nuclear mass density, okay, density of the nuclear mass is very high. It's a very highly dense material or particle or a body. Okay, it's a very highly dense nucleus, or we can just say nuclear mass is very dense. Okay, it's very dense. And if I go exactly, the density of this nucleus or nuclear mass is about 10 raised to 17 kg per meters cube. That is the density. This is the symbol for density. Okay, 10 raised to 17 kg per meter cube. That means what? In a volume of 1 meters cube, okay, it can carry a mass of 10 raised to 17 kg. Imagine, okay, about. So it's a huge density. Okay, so now we have learned properties of the nucleus. We have seen lots of characteristics of this nucleus. Okay, this is what my point was actually, to tell you the properties. Now let's get to the main point over here. After seeing all this, let's get to see what this is. Okay, what is this exactly? What is this strong nuclear force? It was very important to understand all these properties, to understand this nuclear force, strong nuclear force. See, I told you all these things just for one reason. Okay, just for one reason. Because I wanted to tell you that the nuclear mass is very dense. Okay, the nucleus is very small. Okay, the nuclear mass is very closely packed, very tightly packed. It is very compact. I wanted to tell you that these protons and neutrons in the nucleus are very tightly packed inside. They are very, very, very tightly packed. Okay, that is what my main aim was actually, to tell you all these things. It is very tightly packed, very closely packed. Okay, that is what I am saying. So there is almost no space in between these protons and neutrons. That is what my main task was over here. Okay, now I'm trying to tell you all these things just because I want to tell you what is this. Okay, so now let's see what is this nuclear strong force. Okay, so over here, if you look at this nucleus, it contains 6 protons. Protons are positively charged, and the charge on the proton is 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb. Okay, same is the charge on the electrons, but it's negative. Here it is positive. Okay, now over here there are 6, in the case of carbon, 6 protons, 6 positively charged particles very close to each other in a very small volume. Okay, 6 positively charged particles in a very closely packed, very small volume. Imagine what will happen in this case. We all know that two same charges, okay, either positive or negative, they always repel one another. So don't you think over here that these protons will also repel one another? Isn't it? They definitely would repel one another, isn't it? We all know that charged particles repel one another with the electromagnetic force. So definitely there would be some electromagnetic force between these protons also over here inside the nucleus, isn't it? So this means if they are repelling one another, the nucleus should just burst away. I mean, these particles should just fly away actually. They should just go apart. And in that way, the nucleus would not be stable, first of all. And if the nucleus is not stable, the atom would not be stable itself. Nothing in this universe would be stable. But that's actually not the case. If you see, the nucleus is very, very stable. Okay, pretty much stable. It does not even care about this electromagnetic repulsion force. It does not care, isn't it? So over here, there is a huge electromagnetic force inside the nucleus between these charged particles, and still these particles are able to hold themselves, bind themselves inside this very, very small volume. Okay, so that is some kind of magic itself, isn't it? That is some kind of a magic. Huge repulsion, small volume, and still they are all together. It's like a magic, isn't it? So the question arises, how does this happen? How are these particles, the protons and neutrons, are able to hold one another together in the smallest of the volumes possible against such a huge electromagnetic repulsive force? That is the big question that arises over here. Is there something between these protons and neutrons that binds them together? We know one such force, gravitational force. Gravitational force is an attractive force. Is it the gravitational force that is doing this? Is it? Definitely no. No, it can't be. Gravitational force is very small in comparison to the electromagnetic force. There is no comparison. It can't hold these particles together against the electromagnetic force. So it must be some other kind of a force over here between these particles that is able to hold these particles inside the smallest of the volumes against the huge repulsive force. And this force, the new force, is nothing but the strong nuclear force itself. There is a new force between these particles, okay, which acts between them, which holds these particles together, okay, and because of which only it is able to overcome that strong repulsive electromagnetic force, okay. And that force is nothing but, my friends, the strong nuclear force. It's amazing. It's just amazing. I just have no words to describe this force. It's so strong. It's very strong. Imagine here there are just 6 protons, but if you take a heavier nuclei like gold, okay, it's heavier, or you can take uranium, it's again heavier, okay, or if you take any other heavier nuclei, it has huge number of protons, like 80 protons, okay, 80 protons. Imagine 80 protons in the smallest of the volumes. Just imagine. My God, I mean, how the hell these particles are able to hold themselves inside with such a huge repulsion? That is all because of the strong nuclear force that acts between the protons and the neutrons, or protons and protons and neutrons and neutrons. That's the nuclear force. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. Can't tell you how amazing it is. Okay, so this is the nuclear force. There are some properties of this nuclear force actually, just like we saw properties of other forces. Okay, here also there are some properties for this force. Like the first thing is it's very strong. Okay, it's the strongest of the force in the nature. Okay, all other forces are weaker in comparison to this force. Okay, gravitational force, the electromagnetic force, and the other one that we are going to see, that is weak force, they are all weak in comparison to this. But yeah, the thing is, this is a very short ranged force, very short ranged. Its range is very small. See, like gravitational, the electromagnetic, these forces are having a very large range actually. Their range is about infinity. It's actually infinite range. Here it's not infinite, it's not even a small value, it's very small value. Okay, the range of this nuclear force is about 10 raised to minus 14 meters. That's it. That's how small it is. Okay, that's how small it is. 10 raised to minus 14, which is about the size of a nucleus only. So So the force only acts in the range of the size of the nucleus. That means only inside the nucleus. Okay. If the separation between the protons and neutrons is increased more than this, like let's say 10 raised to minus 13, minus 13 and this minus 14, okay, this is greater number, there is a negative power. Okay, so if you increase the range to, sorry, increase the separation to this, then the magnitude of this nuclear force will decrease. It will become weaker, even weaker than the electromagnetic force. Okay, so within this range only this is strongest. Okay, and just beyond this range it is weaker than the electromagnetic force. Okay, so that's why this force is only seen inside the nucleus only. Okay, not anywhere else. That is the reason why we don't really encounter this force. In fact, we encounter the electromagnetic force in some cases, like when we use that comb and all those examples that you know, when you go in front of the TV, then these hairs get attracted. So that is an example of electromagnetic force. So we encounter that, but we don't encounter nuclear force, okay, in daily life, because it's only inside the nucleus. Okay, so that is a nuclear force. It's very short ranged. Okay, this nuclear force is very important for all of us, because right now the nuclear force is the one because of which the nuclear energy comes into existence. Okay, the nuclear energy, which is now a topic of interest for all of us, okay, that is all because of this nuclear force. Okay, the detailed explanation for this would come later in actual chapters. Okay, when we will see the nuclei chapter. Okay, but right now I can only say this. So there are lots of other phenomena like radioactivity, you all know. Okay, nuclear fusion, nuclear fission, okay, nuclear energy, then those nuclear bombs that you see. Okay, all these are nothing but nuclear force implications. Okay, implications of this force. Okay, so that is the nuclear force for all of us, the strong nuclear force for all of us. Okay, so I hope this is pretty much clear how important this force is and how amazing this force is. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you have loved this. Okay, so I think this is it for now. Okay, I have told you almost everything about this nuclear force, which should be told right now at this level. Okay, in higher studies you will learn more about this, but for right now this is it that I can tell you. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this. Thank you so much for joining me. Okay, have a nice day. Yeah, thank you.